7 p.m. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Port Jervis City Council, 1 minute, gentlemen. I just wanted to bring up to your attention, like I said before, we're going to have scouts do the pledge for us, but something very interesting from Friday night, I went to Troop 68's Scout Pancake dinner. And of course, Tony Ennis, who's out in the hall there, she doesn't want to be seen, but Tony agreed to coordinate all the Cub Scouts and the Girl Scouts, the Boy Scouts coming together. But interesting, when we were your Scouts, Stanley, we really didn't have this. But tonight we have a brand new troop, 268. It's called the Venturing Crew. It's part of the Boy Scouts, but it is co-ed, from 14 years old to 20 years old. And they actually lead themselves, and they have guides, adult guides. But tonight, for the very first time, from Venturing Crew 268, is Delaney Ennis and Sierra Costa Bader, who are going to lead us in the pledge. Ladies.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I know Mr. Costa Bader wants to take a picture of us, so I'm going to do.
We never had
I know.
They're actually going dog sledding with our Boy Scout troop next month also.
Okay. Great job, girls. Thank you. And before we have Mrs. Hendrickson come up, I brought somebody here tonight for an appointment, and that is Mr. McCarthy, who's been here for many, many, many years behind the council seat, and tonight he's out in the audience. But I would like to ask you to come up, Mr. McCarthy. I am appointing Mike to the IDA committee. Some of his old-time friends are on the IDA committee, but I wanted to, I asked him if he would serve, and he said he would serve on this committee, so here's your letter for the IDA. However, what I really brought you here for, Mrs. McCarthy, come on in. She's always up to good secrets, isn't she? All right. I would like to do my very first proclamation, and I am honored to give this proclamation to you. It says, whereas Michael W. McCarthy was born on May 7th, 1934 at the Port Jervis Hospital on Prospect Street in Port Jervis, New York. And whereas Mike grew up on Johnson Avenue in the 3rd Ward, where he spent summers working on the railroad, pulling ties and laying track. Mike graduated from Port Jervis City School District in 1952. Mike played football at Port Jervis High School and also at what was then Cortland State Teachers College, where he trained to be a physical education teacher. Whereas Mike served his country for 2 years as a member of the United States Army in Vietnam. He then came back to Port Jervis and worked as an insurance broker and then as National Service Manager for Sparkomatic for 18 years, which sold car stereos and CB radios. Mike also worked as a school bus monitor for 10 years. He is currently working as an insurance agent for William F. Carroll Agency in Port Jervis. And whereas Mike has served on the board for the Salvation Army, volunteer at Bon Secours Community Hospital, a member of the Knights of Columbus, and as vice president of the Mount Carmel Society. And whereas Mike has dedicated countless hours by volunteering for Pop Warner for 19 years, where he served the role of coach, director, official, and lead president. He has served 12 years as a Hudson Valley High School football official, 10 years as a Port Jervis Little League coach and director, 2 years as a CYO basketball coach, and 2 years as a Montague baseball coach. And whereas Mike has served the Port Jervis Common Council for 22 years, 14 years as a councilman of the 1st Ward, and 8 years as councilman at large. He has also served on the Zoning Board of Appeals, on the Police Committee, and in a post-active member of the New York Conference of Mayors. And whereas Mike was inducted into the Port Jervis Alumni Hall of Fame in 2011, inductee. He also received the Port Jervis Police Benevolent Association John L. McKechnie Award, and therefore, I, Mayor Kelly B. Decker, declare this day, January 27th, 2014, as Michael W. McCarthy Day in the city of Port Jervis. On behalf of the entire city, I would like to thank you for your years of dedication and service to our community. You have truly been an upstanding citizen and role model for not only the residents of the city, but for your family. I wish you, Mary Ann, and your entire family a life full of good health and much happiness. And I'd also like to present you with the key to the city. It doesn't open anything. Great job.
This is not a surprise, but there is one correction in the proclamation.
Okay.
I did not serve in Vietnam, but in 1958, I trained Vietnam officers in Fort Lee, Virginia, and nobody even knew where Vietnam was, and I kept asking everybody there, who are these little guys with all the stars on their shoulder? Where'd they come from? They told me Vietnam. I said, I don't know where that is. I know now, though. This is quite an honor, and I thank you. But I gotta tell you, you're sneaky. Thank you so much.
It's much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Gotcha. I don't.
Before we have public comment, I've asked Kathy Hendrickson of the CDA to come forward to speak about the New York Main Street program. Kathy?
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me here, Mayor, and members of the County Council. There have been some questions. We're getting ready to review and sign a Main Street agreement, and I had sent over the draft to Bill Bobozo, and I thought it would be nice, since there were questions that would come up, to just give an overview of the application, an overview of the program, and basically just give you a synopsis of the agreement and what's entailed. Back in May, it was a consolidated funding application, and we had the opportunity to apply for Main Street. In accordance with our downtown strategic plan, we dedicated Front Street, which was a prime block in the downtown central business district, as our target area. And we began to outreach to different business owners, different property owners, to find out what the interest is and if they'd be interested in participating. At the same time, the 4648 Front Street property fell into the hands of the city. I know you invested somewhere in the neighborhood of $75,000 to shore up that back wall, and we saw this as an opportunity to make that a priority project, get that off the ground, and get out of, off the backs of the city taxpayer. So in May of 2013, we submitted an application. Well, actually, it was in August of 2013. We submitted an application. We were awarded funds in December, and now it's coming time to sign the agreement. As I said, the target area is Front Street. We identified two projects. We got the 4648 was one project, and then what we did was we got interest through brokers, as well as a property owner across the street at 2432 Front Street, who was also interested. And there were a couple of other projects that we set up as backup projects. You're not wedded to those projects necessarily, but in the application, you want to demonstrate that there are projects that are interested, there are projects that are eligible and in need in the target area, not just, a whole target area of maybe 36 or 46, units, commercial and residential units. There are priorities set forth in the application. And one of the priorities being, it has to be a prominent block in your central business district. It has to be visible. You have to show need, and you have to convert. They give priority to projects where you're converting, which is in a lot of downtowns across the state and across the country, converting your upper floors for residential, for active residential use, as opposed to just leaving them empty and deteriorated. And we had quite a few of those. The 4648 was one, and the 2432, although the commercial storefronts, a lot of them were leased, they had the third and floors where they were boarded up. So we scored high, we got awarded, and now we're ready to launch the program. Basically, like I said, those are the projects that we designated, but if another project steps forward that's in more need, as what did recently with 2931 Front Street, then we can select those projects, preferably on the Front Street block. And as you know, that one has recently, come to the forefront. There's a developer ready to do that project. What we have out of the 200,000, I dedicated 15,000 for administration. We'd never had that before. And this was also the first year that municipalities were eligible to apply. We had already done a Main Street program in 2009, but we did it under the auspices of the Tri-State Chamber of Commerce, because at that time, the program was only eligible for not-for-profits. But obviously, without the Community Development Agency, the Chamber wasn't really capable of handling it. So we did it with the 9 Sussex Street, 1923 Front Street projects. They were finished, and we successfully closed that out. So now we're ready to embark on this one. At this point, we're signing the agreement, we're drafting a plan, and we're gonna be going out into the community and selecting projects. There's one that stepped forward, 2931. They also put in for a CDBG application. If that's awarded, fine. If not, but as I said, everything is tentative at this point. We haven't signed any agreement that says, well, yes, you will get a Main Street award. It's all contingent on a lot of things. So that's basically how it works. I know, Stanley, you had questions. I know, for instance, the project that we selected, 2931 Front Street, there was parking that was going to be dedicated in the rear of the buildings. I think there's also parking, if I'm not mistaken, behind 2432 Front Street. But the reason why it was never addressed in the application is because there's really no parking requirements in the CBD. So if it's not a requirement, it's not addressed in the application. I don't know whether there were a few other questions that you had. I know that there's a number of items that we'll go over, and I'll be happy to go over them, whether here or in an executive session or whatever. But we've done this grant before. We've managed it. We've administered it. We've closed it out successfully. So, we're able to do this, or at least pass it on to somebody else to do it with some proper training.
Okay. Gentlemen, I've asked her to come into executive session on some of the contractual matters that were brought up in regards to this, but if there's any general questions, does anybody have?
Yeah, I have the same questions I had before. The property that you have outlined, that whatever the number is, where the variety shop was, you're looking at 6 apartments there.
Correct.
So the 16, the 10 others you're hoping to get them somewhere, is that the idea?
We're going to outreach where the couple of the applications that have been, the interests that have been indicated in the original application, such as 2432 Front Street, and of course, we're hoping to do 4648, we're going to aggressively and pursue those. But the 6 are already, if that's a successful application, if that's a successful project, we'll have 6 already committed to.
And what happens if you can't find the other 10 and you get the money and the other 10 don't pop up?
Well, then you have to turn back the money, I guess, or you have to amend your application. But they're hoping that you can find 10 more.
Okay, the other question I had about parking indicated that you resolved that issue by letting them park out back. On any given day, there's hardly any parking places back there. It would be very difficult to find parking for 6 apartments behind that building or in that entire section. But put that aside. What about recreation? One of the problems we had with the old Singer building was recreational area. How are you going to resolve that?
Well, on his third floor, he's built in a laundry facility and a recreation space.
Okay.
It's in the building plans, because that's part of the code. The floor plan designs basically address all the code. I wanted to make sure that was taken care of.
That is,
Okay, and trash accumulation, how are they going to handle that?
The way they do it with 1923 Front Street, whatever that is, I guess he'll work that out.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
internal, inside.
Okay.
Inside.
I guess that's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Anybody else on the council? Anybody from the public have any questions on it? Okay, thank you, Kathy. If you could just wait for executive session.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, we're going to have public comment. You have a 5-minute limit. Please state your name and the ward or street that you live in or on.
Name's Anthony Lacani, living in 3rd Ward on Glass Street. Just like to know what's going on with the sewer problem that we're having in the homeowners' houses. The last time I spoke to you, I guess you canceled out because of the snowstorm. I understand, but still nobody has gotten in touch with me to say this or that. And meanwhile, we're living in a bad environment in our house. So what's gonna happen?
Have you had any incidences since you talked to us? Okay, all right. I will contact you this week and speak to you about what resolution we could possibly come up with on this.
Okay.
Okay?
Very good, thank you.
How you doing? I'm Joe Malcolm. I live on Glass Street also. Unlike Mr. LaPena, I have a few questions in mind. With the sewer, I've got a manhole in my backyard. I've got 3 small children, and one of my biggest concerns is the manhole being there with the kids. You know, we don't live on the street where, you know, we have access to the curb. You have to come down steps and all of that. So most of the time the kids are in the backyard. But with this problem with the sewer happening, you know, one of my biggest concerns is it coming out of that manhole. You know, as it came into the house, you know, the few weeks back, you know, what's to stop it from coming out in the yard? You know, and
It's never come out in the yard before?
only when they popped the lid, it literally, you know, it came right out.
Yeah, I'll have to address that with our DPW and I'll contact you also. Okay.
May I just would like to say one other thing?
Yes, sir.
No, that catch basin that's behind Joe's yard, the homeowners didn't put that in.
Right.
That is part of the city's system. It has to be. I don't know of any private home.
I'm sure there's probably like an easement or a right of way from
Right.
that, and we'll have to look into that.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jack Austin, along with Valerie Majinski and Ann Horsham. We're representing Empowering Port Jervis and Citizens for Our Healthy Community. And I wanted to address the need for a better facility for a warming station in Port Jervis to provide a warm place for homeless individuals to spend the night and survive these frigid temperatures that we're having. Do you know if this is planned to be on the agenda later this evening?
It's going to be discussed in executive session because it's a contractual
Oh,
type of
okay.
issue.
If I may, I'll make a few more comments. As most of you know, we've been operating informally and on kind of an emergency basis to provide a space in our offices at 11 Fowler Street by extending our hours through the night so that we can allow individuals that have no other place to stay to come in so that they don't freeze. There are literally some people that we know are still out there that have not come in yet, but to date we've serviced about 15 different individuals. A number of them have come in a number of nights in succession. We started around December 31st, and as you know, they're predicting more frigid temperatures in the coming week. The office location where we are is really not the most suitable place for it. It's just really temporary, and we had no idea that it would last a month now that it's almost there. We're asking the city to consider allowing us to utilize city space in the youth center or recreation center on Pike Street, which we understand has been in the past designated as an emergency facility, and we know that most of those emergencies are considered to be floods or other natural disasters. But under these weather conditions, we're hoping that you might consider the same sort of circumstances to operate. Our intention is not for this to be a burden to the city financially or otherwise. And at the moment, let me back up and express enormous thanks to the police department for all the help they've brought some individuals to us, and they've also checked in periodically during most nights to make sure that things are safe and calm. Also want to thank a lot of volunteers, some of whom sit among you on the council, for the thankless service that they give in supervising these overnight stays. We do have serious needs, not only for the space, but it would enable us to then provide better staffing and supervision, to obtain some continued training through Honor EHG in Middletown. And they actually have been providing some training back in late November and December. Our need is to use this only through the end of March. It's strictly a seasonal program. We do have $5,000 already pledged to the project through a foundation that Honor has access to once we have a proper place. And we've got a number of other people that have pledged additional funds once it's more formalized. So we want to be able to hire and pay people. And one of the things you might consider is whether we could run some of our funds through the city treasurer. But if that's not feasible, we do have one or two other ways we could do it, although probably less than ideal. But it would enable us to have better coordination of the program. And also it would be only at night, from roughly 9 p.m. until 7 a.m. So it would not interfere with any daytime activities or any of the other things that normally might go on there. With the funds that are available, we can reimburse the city for certain expenses. Heat, for example, if the city were to extend liability insurance to include this type of program, some of the funds could reimburse that expense as well. Okay, rather than me keep rambling, I did want us to be available to answer questions if any of you do have them, so why don't I stop and see if you do.
Because we're going to discuss this in executive session, because it'd be a contractual matter. You said you serve 15 people, but what do you serve in average?
I would say anywhere from 3 to 5 per night. Some have been only one in an evening, but other times 2 or 3. On 1 or 2 occasions, the police have brought an individual in at 2:30 in the morning that has wandered into the police station, freezing and looking for a place, and thank goodness we're there and available.
And most of these are frequent?
I
Same
would
people?
say the
Repeats?
Well, roughly half are probably repeat. The others maybe 1 or 2 nights, and then they find somewhere else relative or some other place to be.
Council have any questions? I do. I have just a couple. Mr. Austin?
Yes.
As far as any of these adults coming in after hours, whether the police bring them in or they come in on their own, have any of these been referred to social services? I know we read a lot about it in the newspaper that Orange County has one of the highest rates with the CPS or APS programs, where I know after hours there's emergency phone numbers, for our police department to contact, whether they go to emergency housing, whether, have they been offered other venues to go to instead of being repeat every night coming back to your facility. Have any of these options been given to these people?
I know that a few have, but I can't give you a specific number of how many have actually been referred to DSS. One of our regulars, ironically, is a Navy veteran, apparently a Navy SEAL. Just life not stable at the moment. And he is in touch with the Veterans Agency in Orange County.
And that's what I'm just wondering, if there's any other agencies that you guys could reach out to,
And we are doing that as
because
best as
especially like with the
possible.
repeat ones. I know the county, Orange County spends a lot of money every year on APS program, whether it's medical transportation, whether it's emergency housing, after hours, and I know they have, like vouchers, and, they have all that stuff that, these people, say they leave your facility 7 a.m. in the morning or wherever, 9 a.m. the social service office opens, it's right here in town. That's something that needs to be addressed, whether you guys can personally take them there, or, and I know some people can't, and some people don't want that to be labeled as that, I need help. But unfortunately, times like this where, it's gonna be a burden on a lot of people, and the county offers this type of services, I think we need to take full advantage of it
And
to the best of our
we certainly
ability.
agree, because one of our objectives is to help these individuals become more self-sufficient and not just continue to be dependent, on all of us.
Unfortunately, we don't have any emergency housing in this Port Jervis. I know they used to have, like when the Deerdale used to be up in painted aprons. But unfortunately now it would probably be a matter of going from here to the city of Middletown, emergency housing after hours. But, we hate to push people away, but if it's a safe, warm place for them to stay, we really should take advantage of that
Okay,
service.
we're past the 5 minutes on this topic.
Okay.
All right, so I think, Annie, I'll let you speak real quickly.
Well, I just did want you to know that at least 3 occasions, we've worked really well with emergency housing. We call, we know how to get them, and they've sent the cab 3 times for folks. One time, actually, the cab would not go, and because they deemed the roads not well enough. So Valerie and Oliver took somebody to emergency housing. We have folks that will, for different reasons, will not enter into services. But yeah, we get to know our folks and we talk to them, and that's like one of the first things we ask is if they would like to take part in something else, because this is not ideal and we want to connect them. But there's folks that will not do that, and but like I said, emergency housing has been wonderful, and we have a good relationship with them. I called John Harper, so I just wanted you to know that that was happening.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak? Not hearing any. A little change. Mrs. Wazenegger, we checked. She can save her voice from now on. She does not have to read the minutes. We will just do the approval of the minutes. Minutes are posted on our website, and they are also available in the city clerk's office and in my office. So what's your pleasure on the approval of the minutes of the last council meeting?
Make a motion, we accept them.
I have a motion from Mr. Siegel. I have a second from Mr. Walagrowski. Any discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So carried. Reports from committees, finance and insurance, Mr. Bell.
Well, first of all, I need to ask for approval of the minutes of the Finance Committee from the meeting of December 16th. I'll make a motion.
I have a motion from Mr. Bell, a second from Mr. Ritchie. Discussion?
What was the date on this? December 16th.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
Abstain.
One abstention, and passed. Mr. Bell?
Okay. As was mentioned before about the DPW, the Finance Committee meeting was also canceled on that night due to snow. Mrs. Wesneger did send out a report as to everything that was on the agenda. I'll just go over a few of those things. First on here was the GFOA conference, April 2nd to 4th in Albany. Then we had some of the capital note requests have been submitted. We still are waiting some from other department heads. Insurance renewals will be coming up starting in February. Cash flow is all right at the time. We will be running short in February and March, but we can borrow from capital funds until we get back in better shape with the rest of the income. They had a request also from the Recreation Department for the Judo Club. And I'll read that letter from, we'll just say, Mr. Fagione requested opening of an additional trust and agency ledger account for the Judo Club. Internally, this will be handled as a ledger account. The monies will be moved through the master trust and agency account, same as we have done with DARE, and it's not a big problem according to Mrs. Wesnick. And that was for the minutes on the day of the snow. So I'll ask that we also approve those minutes that were done through email.
Motion by Mr. Bell, second? Second by, excuse me, Mr. Bobozo. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried.
In regards to a couple of those pieces in the minutes, I have a resolution of Common Council of the City of Port Jervis regarding the GFOA conference and other committee meetings. Whereas the City of Port Jervis Finance Committee has received a request and reviewed same for the City Clerk Treasurer to attend the annual Government Finance Officers Association Conference in April. And whereas the City of Port Jervis Common Council recognizes that the City Clerk Treasurer may from time to time attend meetings for various associations and with entities as necessary for performing her duties. And whereas the funds are budgeted within the budget of the City Clerk Treasurer's 2014 departmental budget, it is hereby resolved the City of Port Jervis approves the attendance and expenditure of funds for the City Clerk Treasurer to attend the annual GFOA conference and other meetings as necessary for the performance of her job duties, and I'll make that a motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Bell, second by Mr. Ritchie for the GFA. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried.
This is the letter from Mr. Fagione. I am respectfully requesting the City Clerk Treasurer open the T&A account for our judo program. The account for Jervis Judo Club will be used for fundraising profits, equipment purchases, uniforms, and tournament entries. Thank you for your consideration, and I'll make a motion that we allow that to happen.
Motion by Mr. Bell, we have a second? Second. Second by Mr. Walagrowski. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried.
From our assessor, Mrs. Duryea, I have the certificate current base proportions. I'll read you a few of the pertinent numbers. Taxable assessed value under the homestead is $104,548,264. Non-homestead is $48,272,603. The base percentages on homestead is 70.79%, and non-homestead is 29.20338. The other one was 0.79662. Prior AR roll for taxable assessed value, including special franchise. Under homestead, $118,877,118. Non-homestead, $47,199. $47,199,138. Percentage-wise, for a homestead is 67.56%. Non-homestead is 32.439%. Local base proportion for the 1992 assessment roll, homestead was 58.4337 and non-homestead was 41.5663. The current base proportions on homestead are 61.297 and for non-homestead are 38.7022%. Make a motion, we accept this
Motion by,
report
sorry.
and allow Mrs. Wasnager to sign it and send it on to New York State Department of Taxation and Finance.
I have a motion by Mr. Bell.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bobozo. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried.
And we have a few bills to pay. Some of the larger bills, Global Montello, gasoline and diesel for December and January, $12,950.99. Orange and Rockland, December delivery charges, $24,838.22. Orange County landfill, December use, $17,847.30. Under the capital fund, CRL Electric Corporation, that's the Beach Road pump station work, $50,181.28. The total from the general fund, $92,730.73. The water fund, $6,553.39. The capital fund, $52,698.54, for a total of $151,982.66. I make a motion to pay the bills.
I have a motion to pay the bills by Mr. Bell, second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Ritchie, discussion? I will tell you, if you listen to some of these companies like Global Montello, you want to invest in places, they're the places to invest in. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried.
That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Fire and Emergency Management, Mr. Waligrowski.
Thank you, Mayor. I have two things. First off, anybody's interested, the new ladder truck has been moved from the factory to the headquarters up near Albany at KME. If you're interested, if you're on Facebook, you can look up under Port Jervis Fire Department. You can also go under kme.com on the web and go under fire apparatus, under aerial ladders. You'll find the Port Jervis, the new fire truck is up there. Actually, as of tonight, our existing ladder truck will be taken out of service because the equipment from the old truck has to be taken up so it can be measured, make sure it's all in the proper compartments and stuff, and they can make sure everything fits right. So as of right now, there's still no delivery date. Within the next couple weeks, we'll have it. But like I said, you can go to kme.com. You can see all the pictures of the new apparatus. The only other thing is February 17th is the next Fire Emergency Management meeting, following the DPW meeting, 6:30, 6:45, as soon as the meeting's over with. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Code and Legislative, Mr. Siegel.
Thank you, Mayor. A few items. At the last meeting, we accepted Mr. Kidney's retirement, but we neglected to approve the payout of accrued benefit time upon his departure. I'd like to make a motion that we do that.
I have a motion by Mr. Siegel. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Bobozo. This is to pay out the benefit time of Mr. Kidney. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so carried.
Thank you.
Mayor, if I can, just back up a second.
I only heard two, right? That's all I heard.
Just on a different note, I believe, and Mr. Bell just reminded me that that Monday, the 17th, is a holiday. So we have to move the meeting to Tuesday, the 18th, for all the meetings that night, our marathon night.
Okay. Sorry, Mr. Siegel.
No problem. I just was wondering what the hesitation was.
I just didn't hear everybody yay.
But at least it was on your part, not mine. Along those lines, I have a resolution I'd like to read. Whereas the City of Port Jervis Common Council has accepted the resignation of the Code Enforcement Officer effective February 8, 2014, and whereas it is recognized that the city may appoint an acting Code Enforcement Officer to perform all duties of the vacant position until such time as the position is filled through the normal hiring practices of the City of Port Jervis. It is hereby resolved that the Common Council of the City of Port Jervis appoints Lori Powery as acting Code Enforcement Officer effective February 8, 2014, until such time as the city fills the position or rescinds the temporary authority by resolution, and as acting Code Enforcement Officer, she shall receive an additional $200 per week. I make that a motion.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Siegel, a second by Mr. Bell. This is to allow Lori Powery as acting building official with a $200 a week stipend. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Thank you.
And, moving along, our last meeting was, our first meeting of the year was on January 8th. At the next meeting, we will be discussing Chapter 464, Street Sidewalks and Public Property, revisions of the City Code. I sent everyone a copy of the potential revisions, looking for comments, suggestions, etc. If you have any, please let me know. If there's anybody out in the audience or in the city that would like to suggest some suggestions or changes to Chapter 464, which is titled Street Sidewalks and Public Property. Please let me know. There's a email, pjnycodes@gmail.com, or you can call me, or you can leave a message at the mayor's office. We're looking for public input as we try to change, revise, and make the codes a little bit more compatible with life in the city of Port Jervis. Also, we will be discussing a vacant property assessment fee law. That would be a new law. We are also going to discuss new construction underground utilities requirement law. That would be a new law. We're also going to discuss flat roof construction law, which will be a new law too. So there'll be a lot of things coming up at this code meeting. And at each code meeting, we're going to take a look at the previous code and at new codes, as I said, to try to make it better here. So everybody's invited to come to the meetings. Everybody's invited to provide input. If you're looking for minutes of the codes committee, they're on portjervisny.org. You'll see a place there where the minutes are, and you'll also find the code. The municipal code is at portjervisny.org, O-R-G. And the next meeting that we were just talking about is February 5th, 7 p.m. here in the council chambers. And I believe that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Siegel. Unfortunately, you see Mr. Cunningham's not here. The winter illness got him down, and we wish him a speedy recovery. But in his absence, for Public Works and Environmental Affairs is Mr. Owen.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just thinking that your time limits on your code meetings last year will be challenged greatly with the agenda that I just heard, because he did send out the first part, but the last 4 items, he didn't send out to anyone.
Mr. Siegel,
So-
who's helping you with that?
So I'm pretty sure your times are going to be in jeopardy.
Well, I apologize, but they were based on the mayor's suggestion.
Yeah, okay. So the agenda just grew quite a bit.
So you got 2 of us you have to deal with, Jerry, so just come to the meeting.
Okay. First I wanted to start with, let's start with the boil water order that was issued this morning. The water treatment plant was where it was issued. Due to a valve not closing properly during a backwash, the turbidity level exceeds the levels recommended by the Department of Health. This malfunction lasted approximately 1 hour, at which time the turbidity levels returned to their normal limits, which are well below the recommendations of the Department of Health. The boil water order may be in effect for as long as 2 days, awaiting the laboratory results. So that message went out this morning. I know it went around the emails. I'm sure it was distributed. I heard it on the radio.
It was on YMN too.
It was, yeah. Did you have anything you wanted to say
No,
to that, Mayor?
it's out there. We've put it out in every possible way to contact people.
And we're just waiting for the test results to come
Right,
back.
the test
and he'll resend
results
it.
are anywhere up to 48 hours, correct? 48 hours,
But the 2 days since the disruption is over, right?
correct. But until the DOH lifts it, we keep it in place.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Garbage and recycling are on a normal schedule for all wards for the next 3 weeks. Crews have been out removing the holiday decorations and repairing potholes, which are epidemic in the state. Not too bad, I don't think, in Port Jervis so far, but they're bad all over with the freezing cycle that we've had this year. It's terrible. Renovations at the Beach Road pump station are progressing on schedule. The DPW crew serviced the snowstorm that we all talked about on the 18th. It's a big snowstorm, and I think we can all agree they did a great job as always. Roads look good. Also, there's a proposal that we received from Conrad Close and Ewald PC to do required survey work for the Berm Road Water Project. The amount is for $3,800, and it is included as part of the funded project. And I'd like to make that a motion.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Oni, a second by Mr. Siegel. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried.
Mayor, we have a resolution
whereas the city of Port Jervis is desirous of acquiring and rehabilitating and improving property through urban renewal projects in the city of Port Jervis so as to help improve living conditions for its citizens in the city, and whereas the Orange County Department of Public Works has forwarded an agreement for urban renewal projects in the amount of $35,000 for property within the city of Port Jervis for the year of 2014. Now therefore be it resolved, the Common Council of the City of Port Jervis approve the agreement for urban renewal as outlined by the Orange County Department of Public Works and authorizes the mayor, Kelly B. Decker, to execute the agreement on behalf of the City of Port Jervis and forward same to the Orange County Department of Public Works so that this work can be scheduled and completed within a timely manner in the year 2014. And I'll make that a motion.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Oney, a second by Mr. Bell. Discussion. I will say that this is more than what we've had in the past, so about $10,000. $10,000 more. One of the first items, the money's already on its way to being spent for lights on the Delaware Bridge. So that's one of the first projects. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried.
And that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Police Committee, Mr. Hendrick.
Thank you, Mayor. I have two matters. The first matter pertains to obtaining a permanent appointment of a civil service position of police officer for Daniel Miglianico. And I'll read correspondence from Chief Warden. I respectfully request that the Common Council of the City of Port Jervis appoint Officer Daniel Miglianico to the permanent civil service position of police officer with the City of Port Jervis Police Department effective January 27, 2014. On February 18, 2013, Officer Miglianico officially began his duties with the City of Port Jervis PD as a probationary police officer. Prior to his employment with the city, he served as a police officer with the New York State Park Police for 6 years. Over the last 11 months, Officer Miglianico has successfully completed all phases of departmental field training, has demonstrated a high degree of skill, professionalism, and commitment to the law enforcement profession. Through his service and daily actions, he continually excels as a proactive, community-oriented patrol officer who is attentive to duty, maintains a high degree of self-discipline, and works diligently to strengthen police-community partnerships and fulfillment of our public safety mission. It is my professional opinion that Officer Miglianico will continue to serve the residents of the City of Port Jervis with great professionalism, pride, and respect, and will be an incredible asset to the Port Jervis City Police Department. I respectfully request that this matter be forwarded to the Common Council under Police Committee business for consideration at this meeting. And that's from William J. Warden, Chief of Police. Therefore, I motion that Daniel Miglianico be appointed to the permanent civil service position of police officer with the City of Port Jervis Police Department, effective January 27, 2014.
Second. I have a motion by Mr. Hendricks, a second by Mr. Wolokrowski. Any discussion? As far as Officer Miglianico goes, here he is just making a year, and he's already received an award for traffic safety. So he's definitely an asset to our police department. Any other discussion?
We're just lucky we got as many young officers that
Good
come
ones,
in
yeah.
as we have.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried.
And the second matter pertains to obtaining a resolution from the Common Council authorizing Chief Warden to sign on behalf of the City of Port Jervis contracts with the County of Orange for the Stop DWI program and expanded enforcement programs as required throughout the year 2014. Corporation Council has reviewed the pending contract, and I'd like to move the following resolution. Whereas the County of Orange has funds to be distributed to local law enforcement agencies for the purpose of conducting enforcement activities related to the Stop DWI program, referred to as Spring and Fall Enforcement Waves, and whereas the City of Port Jervis does wish to participate in said program, now therefore be it resolved, the Common Council of the City of Port Jervis approves the receipt of said funds on behalf of the Port Jervis Police Department from the County of Orange and authorizes the Chief of Police, William Warden, to execute all necessary contracts and documentation with regards to available funds. I make that a motion.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Hendrick, a second by, is that Mr. Bell? Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried.
And lastly, the next police committee meeting is scheduled for Thursday, February 6th at 6:30 here in the council chamber. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Liaison, CDA, IDA, Mr. Ritchie.
Thank you, Mayor. Prior to the CDA meeting, the reorganizational committee met with the Housing Authority as promised. We basically wanted to touch base with them and roll our ideas over to them and ask if they had any feedback as to what they were thinking. Some of the Housing Authority's concerns were the payroll, the location, if they didn't have a space for the housing in Section 8, and the reporting structure. Also, their Housing Authority attorneys had told us that the Section 8 and HUD have to be separate from theirs. So that works out well because I think the reorganizational committee as well as the CDA board had already decided in their mind that the Section 8 and HUD would remain in the recreation center. So the attorney for the Housing Authority thought that was a great idea. We are scheduled to meet with them prior to a week before the CDA meeting on February 12th at Hillside Terrace at 7 o'clock. And we also asked Sally Van Sowers, our program administrator for the Section 8 and HUD, to give Linda Drew from the Housing Authority a call so that they can go over some questions and ideas that they have. And we also invited her to that next meeting. CDA met at 7 o'clock on the same night. It was pretty continuation of that, as well as we had program updates, and our CDA director gave us a report on the funds and the grants that she was working on closing out. We approved the 2014 budget for the CDA with the stipulation that there will be some changes made during the course of the year. We approved the Happy Software contract for the year. This is basically software used for Section 8. They wanted the membership renewal for the Tri-State Chamber of Commerce. We decided that we would wait for the next board, which will be administrative or put together in the February 18th meeting. And our next meeting scheduled is for February 18th at 7 o'clock in the Recreation Center on the second floor. And that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. ADA, Mr. Hendrick.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to set a tentative meeting for Thursday, February 13th at 4 p.m., contingent on availability of new members. At that time, there'll be an oath of office administered to the new community members, a review of previous initiatives, and discussion of new ideas. Again, that meeting will be here in the council chambers Thursday, February 13th at 4 p.m. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Housing Authority, Mr. Siegel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You can start the clock, Jerry. The Housing Authority last met on January 15th. They held the officers' election. The chairman is Dave Eberhardt. The vice chairman is Ed Pease. The secretary is Peggy Eckert. And the treasurer is Stacy Riley. Our buildings department held periodic inspection. A few minor concerns were found and they were addressed. The public housing assessment system score was the same as the previous year at 93. And since they are a high performer, all future assessments will be done every 3 years. The board met, as Mr. Ritchie said, with the CDA board about Section 8 changes on January 22nd, and that other meeting that Mr. Ritchie talked about has been scheduled. And the next meeting is January 15th at 7 p.m. Hillside Terrace. Thank you, and that's all I have.
Really?
February 5th, what did I say?
January 15th, you said.
How in the world did that come out of February?
Thanks.
February 5th.
Recreation Commission, Mr. Walagrowski.
Thank you, Mayor. Just some updates from our Recreation Committee. Snow tubing, the Recreation Department is sponsoring a snow tubing field trip to Fernwood Resorts in Bushkill, PA, next Monday, February 3rd. The cost is only $20 a person. This cost includes transportation and tubing. We will leave Port Jervis at 4:45 p.m. and return at approximately 9 p.m. Fernwood has great tubing hill and it's great for family fun night out. This Thursday, January 30th is the deadline to sign up and join us. Contact the Recreation Office at 858-4045 or email pjrec@frontiernet.net. Youth Karate with Dale and SB. The Youth Karate registration for our winter program has been extended through the end of this week. All registration will take place at SB's Academy on Front Street. The karate program will begin next Monday, February 3rd. This is a 6-week course, and the cost is only $50, which includes the uniform. Contact the Recreation Office for more details. Co-ed Youth Basketball, the 5th and 6th grade league, is held every Wednesday evening at the ASK gym. Game 1 is at 6:30 and Game 2 is at 7:30. These games are open to the public. Come down and support the youth. Youth basketball practice is held each Saturday also at the ASK gym. Practice for 3rd and 4th graders is 12 to 1:15, and for 5th and 6th graders, practice is 1:30 to 3. The Youth Center hours are this Friday. There is no school for Port Jervis students. The Youth Center will be open 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. and then 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. for our Friday teen night. Remember, when school is closed for the weather, holiday, etc., the Youth Center opens from 11 to 3. Don't forget to visit and like our Facebook page, Port Jervis Recreation. And our next regular scheduled Recreation Committee meeting is Tuesday, February 18th, 2014 at 7 p.m. at the Youth Center. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Tourism, Mr. Boboza.
Next meeting of the Tourism Board is scheduled for February 11th at 6:30 here at City Hall in the basement conference room. That's all I have at this time.
Thank you, sir. Zoning Board, Mr. Ritchie.
Thank you, Mayor. The zoning board hasn't met this month, and I got a notification today that there will be no meeting in February because there isn't any business on the agenda. So hopefully our next meeting will be in March, which is the first Tuesday of the month. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. And Planning Board?
Planning Board. Planning Board met on January 23rd. What we did, we had a public hearing for the Zahara Realty LLC, which is 33, 35, 37, and 39 East Main Street. The hearing opened around 7:09. Mr. John Fuller, our civil engineer representing the applicant, said that all the mailings went out, and it's under contract to be purchased. And the property that we're talking about is the old KFC building and the 2 parcels next to it. The intention is to open a fast food restaurant there, similar to the KFC, and have been speaking with the Popeye franchise. Mr. Fuller addressed some normal zoning and planning board needs. Some of those were additional parking from 21 spaces to 33, consolidating the 3 parcels to 1, which was suggested by our assessor as well as the planning board. Hours of operation, number of employees, signage, lighting, and dumpster area to follow our new city code. There was some public comment, and some of those questions were delivery times, traffic problems on Elizabeth Street, and hours of operation Monday through Saturday. Initially, they're scheduled to open Monday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to midnight, and on Sunday from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Mr. Fuller said that he would discuss that with them, and he would get back to us at the next meeting. The public hearing, the board decided to keep the public hearing open until February 18th meeting at 7 p.m. And that's all I have regarding that. On the old business, there was the conditional use permit for Rock Solid, which is 4147 East Main Street, which is behind the Port Jervis Diner. The board asked if there was any problems with the site over the last year. The chairman indicated there were some issues, but overall they were resolved quickly and recommended the board approve the extension. The board allowed public comment, and residents said there was black bags were left during weekends, and he had to clean them up. Motion was made to approve the 2-year extension with the condition that the owner increase policing of area to ensure cleanliness. The next meeting will be February 18th at the council chambers at 7 p.m. And I just need to clarify, the CDA meeting I think I said was February 18th. It's actually February 19th at 7 p.m. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Plumbing Board, Mr. Siegel.
Thank you, Mayor. There was no planning board meeting since our last council meeting. The next meeting will be February 5th at 6:30 here in the council chambers.
And Electrical Board?
And same thing with them. Their next meeting is February 5th at 6:45 in the council chambers.
And Mr. Siegel, Senior Advisor.
I met with senior housing representatives and residents during the month. I also advised them about the water boil advisory and no other issues to report.
Thank you, sir. Do we have an Access 23 report?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Thank God.
Access 23 President's Report, January 27, 2014. First, I'd like to welcome our new mayor and our new council members. I'd like to thank the outgoing mayor and councilmen for a great job they did for the city while they were in office. I'd like to take this opportunity to wish you all well in any and all endeavors that you see fit to involve yourselves in. Also, we know that these individuals will still do everything they can to make our city a positive place for our residents. The state of the station, that's a tongue twister, is strong and moving forward. In the coming year, one of our main priorities will be focused on the grant project we started with the CDA. We're currently awaiting the IRS to get back to us as all the appropriate documents have been submitted. As a result of our December election, the new officers are President Ed Keyes, Vice President Bob Nicholson, Treasurer Carl Richards, Corresponding Secretary Alex Dane, Recording Secretary Mimi Keyes, Sergeant at Arms Nick Butterworth, Program Director Lois Richards, and trustees are Sal Russo, Tom Castellonia, and Sandy Weiner. The following presidential appointments were made: Tech Director Lois Richards, Public Relations Person Jay Ortiz, and the new liaison to the council is Alex Dane, who happens to be our cameraman. And thanks for being our cameraman, Alex. Access 23 meets the first Wednesday of the month at 7 p.m. at 16 Franklin Street. As always, the public is welcome to attend or get involved with the station. Because we're trying to save on the cost of utilities, we do not hold monthly meetings in January or February, which means our next regular meeting will be held March the 5th. Sincerely, Ed Keyes, President. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Under Mayor's Correspondence and Information Update, I have several things. First, as I explained before, the week after a council meeting, on Sunday after a council meeting, I'll be attending a different church service. This week, I will be attending the Deer Park Reformed Church at 11 o'clock. That is on East Main Street. This is also Scout Sunday, so the Scout Sunday ceremony will be held at the Deer Park Reformed Church on that day, which is this Sunday at 11 a.m. I will meet anybody outside here at Sussex Street if they'd like to attend with me at 10:30 on Sunday. I asked before, and I know I've put it out there, for a senior report and a youth report, and we're adding a veterans report, something that you asked about. I did hear back from a youth. He couldn't make it today, but by next meeting we will have a youth report. And what I'm looking for the veterans and for the seniors, and seniors, of course, I actually was sent one of those AARP things. Well, I'm not even 50 yet, so. But some of you are. Could give the reports. I'm just looking to see what the seniors are doing in the next 2 weeks, just like the youth's going to report what the youths are doing, and maybe a brief synopsis and the same thing. I know the VFW and the naval ship must have a veteran that'd be interested in just giving a quick report to the council at the beginning of the meeting, so we kind of know what's going on in the community. Birthday club, Reveille Ranch for the old timers on WDLC will begin playing next week. We dug it up out of the files, and we'll be doing the birthday club. If you have a birthday, or you know somebody that has a birthday and you want to get them on the radio, I'll be doing the announcements. No, I won't be getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning to do them. I'll pre-record them. But you could either write it to us at the Port Jervis Birthday Club at gmail.com or contact Cody in my office, and he'll put you down on the list. I do have a couple of committee moves. I did discuss this with the council. I am moving Mr. Ritchie off of Fire Emergency Management and replacing him with Mr. Siegel. I am removing Mr. Ritchie off of DPW and replacing him with Mr. Bell. And I'm moving Mr. Ritchie off of Finance and putting Mr. Siegel on there. And that was just to balance out some of the appointments that I made. So everybody's got a fair share. I would like to appoint Al Fusco as our engineer for a period of 1 year to January 31st of 2015. And I'll give my list of appointments, but I'll give it to you, so you'll have it. Zoning Board. I'd like to thank Ali Acavino for his years of service, and he is being replaced by Mike Roberts with a 5-year term. I am reappointing Herman Lefty Barth for a period of 5 years to the Zoning Board. I am reappointing Zoning Board Attorney Robert Fink for the period of 2 years. I am reappointing Planning Board member Donnie Shields for the period of 5 years. I am thanking Mr. Robert Krahulik for his services to the Planning Board and appointing local attorney Michael McCann as the Planning Board attorney for the next 2 years. Mr. Eccleston has left the IDA, and that was back in October, so that left an opening. And I would like to gratefully give a 2-year appointment to fill out Mr. Eccleston's appointment on the IDA to Mr. McCarthy. I am reappointing on the Board of Assessment Review Rafael Gonzalez for the period of 5 years, which began on October 1st of 2013, as those terms go by a fiscal year. I am appointing to the Community Development Agency Richard Roberts and John Russell for the period of 2 years, and would like to thank Dean Almick and Marie Reeves for their service. I am reappointing for 2 years Betsy Gardner to the Community Development Agency. I am reappointing Ed Keys for the period of 5 years to the Housing Authority. I am reappointing Mike Latini for 5 years to the Recreation Committee. I am giving 2-year reappointments on the Tourism Board to Regis Foster, Angela Castellano, Bill Schill, Debbie Schofield, Laura Meyer, and Mike Meyer. I am making appointments to the Tourism Board for Miss Kristen Trovey, Marlene Horan, Catherine Westfall, and Winnie DeToto, and they are for the period of 2 years. I am appointing historian Richard Roberts for 2 years, and I'd like to thank Brian Lewis for his years of service to the historian. I am reappointing Tim Monahan to the ADA committee for the period of 2 years. And I am also appointing to the ADA committee for the period of 2 years Jen Foster, Katie Horsham, and Annie Foster. I have a notice from Kathy Shortell at the senior dining that they are setting up to begin the tax program. She has scheduled a tax preparer for any low-income senior, 60 years old or over, can call for an appointment, and that is to the senior dining, 858-4054, or you can dial 858-4000 and just listen through the process. But the quicker way is 858-4054. I have a bill for the membership of the Upper Delaware Scenic Byway. I would need a motion. I think we pay $500 for our yearly membership. So first I'd like to have a motion to pay that $500. I have a motion by Mr. Ritchie, a second by Mr. Bovozo. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Mr. Van Cleek is unable to be our representative, and right now Mr. Fadge is the alternate. I am going to do reappointments to this at our next council meeting. So I just wanted to make sure that they got the check in. It doesn't matter because they're actually meeting tonight. so they won't meet until after our next council meeting. I have a request from the Drew United Methodist Church and the Salvation Army to conduct the Easter sunrise service on Point Peter, Easter Sunday, April 20th, 2014, from 7:15 to 8 a.m. Do I have a motion on that?
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Walagrowski, a second by Mr. Siegel. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. I have a letter from George Tamburo of the CMA Disciples of the Cross, and this is to request Riverside Park for their annual event, the Run for the Sun, on May 3rd. The times are from 9 to 5 on that day, and they also welcome any motorcyclists that would like to ride with them and join them for a park for lunch and for food under the pavilion. And they also need the bandstand with electrical service. This is done every year. Do I have a motion? This is the day before the race.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Oni, a second.
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Ritchie. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Okay, as many of you may have heard, there was some discussion about cruise and port, and cruise and port was discussed here at our last council meeting of being moved to Riverside Park. There were some concerns about the actual cruise and part and how to make it safe, and I sat down with the organizers plus the chief on Saturday morning, and we've come up with an alternative plan that will still include Riverside Park, open the gates at the railroad, and create Front Street and Ball Street one-way directions. Cars can park on Front Street normally, not at the angle, but in a normal fashion, and it will be posted. The direction of Front Street will be in the westerly direction. Ball Street will be in the easterly direction, and there will also be signs posting the speed at that time during the cruise and port at 15 miles an hour. The chief has asked me to hold off on a motion on this until our next council meeting so that he can finalize the gate crossing. Any discussion? I have a letter from St. Peter's Lutheran Church just asking the council to coincide with the Governor Andrew Cuomo's new law that he passed last week, allowing local governments to regulate large-scale commercial puppy mills and provide oversight of pet dealers. So I just wanted to bring that to our attention. I'll send it down to Stanley that he could bring up into code. And, I am going to need, for executive session, Mr. Lopez and Chief Warden. As you know, Chief Warden's not here, but Chief Warden is up at the town of Deer Park, has their council meetings the same night, same time, and he is up there because they are appointing a new police chief, but I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag of who it is. He will be back, so I just, he needs to come into executive session as well as Mr. Lopez. Can somebody make that executive session motion?
I make a motion, invite in
Yes.
Ms. Hendrickson, Mr. Lopez, and,
Chief Warden. Chief will be back.
okay, Chief Warden.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Hendrick, a second by Mr. Bell. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. And the last thing that I have is Wednesday. This Wednesday at 7 p.m. in this room, I will be giving the State of the City address. It's a lot of writing, I'll tell you that. It will be live on the internet, and will you be able to come out Wednesday night?
Sure.
All right, so it'll be also on Access 23. Also, if for some reason you miss it and you want to watch it, it will be up on the website, as are all the council meetings will be on the website after we post them. That's all that I have. So we'll start with old business. Mr. Siegel.
Oh, he wasn't ready, man.
I don't think I have any.
I tried.
I have none.
Wow.
Wow.
You'll-
Mr. Oni.
No, Mayor. We'll make up for new.
Mr. Ritchie.
Nothing, Mayor, thank you.
Mr. Hendrick.
Yeah, just one thing, Mayor. At the last council meeting, with regard to filling the second ward vacancy, I had stated that an appointment could be made by a majority vote of those council members present. However, I've been advised that under the general construction law,
it overrides the local city charter provisions that I quoted, and a majority of the whole number would be required. So in this situation, that would be 5 votes, and I just wanted to clarify that issue. That's all I have.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Nothing else, Mr. Bozo?
No business, Mayor.
Mr. Walagros?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. First off, I want to thank the DPW for all their work. You know, a lot of these snowstorms haven't been the easiest ones. But I also want to just make a comment. You know, being on Facebook, getting text messages, and you see people's frustrations, whether it be personal, business-wise, or whatever. Just because it snows doesn't mean the plows are going to be out nonstop, okay? People need to understand that the best time to plow is when the storm is over, unless of course there's a foot or 2 foot, 3 foot, whatever. A couple inches of snow on the ground, all right? We live in the Northeast, people need to start dealing with it, okay? I hate to sound, you know, like this, but you know what? It's part of life, okay? We can't, you know, unfortunately there's some businesses that shut down prematurely because of the previous storm. All right, it's their loss, but the roads weren't too bad, okay? The main roads, I know for a fact, were maintained well because I know not only our DPW, but it's the thoroughfare for the state DOT trucks. I mean, all the hills, all the major roadways are sanded, salted, and it makes no sense for an hour after they sand the roads for the trucks to come and plow them off. It's better, you know, and historically it's always been the same thing year after year. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Lopez, but it's better to have some of that snow material on the ground for some traction than the bare ground, which is ice, you know, and you don't want the ice. So I just ask people to bear with the DPW. They did a fantastic job for what we had, you know, and you know it's always been this way. They haven't changed their routine in as many years as I can remember, and just ask people that you know we can't control Mother Nature, and we just got to deal with it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Bell?
I just need to announce the finance meeting will be on February 18th at 7 o'clock. We're following DPW Fire Emergency Management. I would assume we're probably going to be downstairs because you'll have planning up here.
No, we're according to the calendar, we're upstairs and
Planning, okay, that's going to change. Planning wants to be upstairs. Okay.
We will be downstairs.
We'll be downstairs.
And that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. New business, Mr. Bell?
No, sir.
Mr. Walagrowski?
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Barboza?
I'd just like to echo some sentiments from last meeting. This being the last one before he retires, I'd like to thank Wayne Kidney for his many years of service to the city. I've had the opportunity to work with Wayne both as a councilman this time around and prior, and as a private citizen who often has to deal with the building department. Wayne has always been a fantastic employee of the city. I'm excited that Lori is here for the continuity as well. She is absolutely terrific as well. But I'd like to thank Wayne for all those years as he looks forward to retirement. That's it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Henry?
Yes, I'd also like to thank Wayne for his years of service, and also Kathy Hendrickson from the CDA, who's retiring after 30 years. And so both those employees, 30 years is a long time, dedicated service, and they'll be missed. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Ritchie?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to hold off on thanking you, Kathy, because we'll be still working with you until March, but I will definitely echo those sentiments as well. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you,
sir. Mr. Roney?
Same thing for me. I agree with the last 2-3 councilmen. Wayne's going to be missed. Long-time service. It's a thankless job. One of a couple in the city. The room is filled with people. Half of them like you. It's kind of like being a politician. Half like you, the other half don't. And it's a thankless job. He did it to the best of his ability and with great direction from a lot of direction with code committee over the years. So he truly deserves a rest and break. He's looking forward to it, I'm sure. It's too bad he's not here tonight. I guess he's already avoiding the phone call that Stanley said he was going to give him. But he definitely will be missed, and I want to wish him good luck, him and his family.
And Mr. Siegel?
Yes, I'd like to extend my similar thoughts about both individuals, and I'm not going to belabor it when I can belabor something else here. But
Under new business.
they provided a great deal of service to the community, and their expertise will be missing. So hopefully we'll be able to bring that back with other people. I'd like to also add to the short list at the code meeting, puppy mills and landlord rental fees. Milford had a nice festival, and unfortunately, we weren't able to get there. But the idea is something I think that we should be looking at. We have a great opportunity to do a winter ice festival. And if the winters continue to get colder instead of warmer, it might be a great thing to do. Years ago, we had three playgrounds actually, where we took the basketball courts and they put a little bit of a ridge there, and we did ice skating. That's easy to bring back. The problem back then was, I know that Engine 4 flooded the Church Street one, and Sharon and I used to participate one night a week as people to watch over what's going on there. I think there's probably enough volunteers in this town to do that again. It's not expensive. I'm sure that the firemen won't mind doing it. The problem is going to be, we'll have to have the police to make sure the kids don't throw stones in as it's freezing again. And we still have an opportunity at the health center. I think that's still able to be flooded if they just do a blacktop there. And we could do other things too. We could do, tobogganing, sleighing. They're going to be tobogganing on a 180-foot run on Broadway. If they can do it in New York City, we could probably do it in the country.
They're building that today.
Yeah, so I think we should be looking at doing those kinds of things in the winter. It sort of goes with extreme sports, but it's not extreme. And the other thing is, I like to remind people that there is a code that provides for the need to have a house number on your home. And it aids dramatically in the ability of EMS and fire personnel to find your home when there's a need to find it. It also helps the postman. It also helps the people that are going around that get a complaint on the council, for example, of a house that's got a problem, or we have to go look at a house that's been abandoned. There are a lot of houses that don't have numbers. That's going to be something that we're going to start initiating or pursuing during the year. So I just would like to encourage people, it's not expensive to buy numbers. They have to be contrasting numbers, which is not difficult to do either. I'd like to encourage people to start putting numbers on their houses so we don't have to encourage it through a fine. And that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we go into public comment for a 3-minute limit, I just want to remind people of two things. Something that we used to talk about, we haven't talked in the last 2 meetings about, crosswalks. If you see somebody, please pay attention to the crosswalks and watch. If somebody has their foot in or standing near the crosswalk, let them cross. They have the right of way. And also, Mr. McCarthy's famous, if you see something, say something. It's really important and it helps the police. So moving on to public comment, 3-minute limit. Is there anybody from the public that would like to speak? Not hearing anybody, I'd like to have a motion to enter an executive session. I have a motion by Mr. Ritchie, a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bell. Discussion, all in favor? Opposed? So carried.
Yeah.